by the gentleman here to say a few words to you ladies. And as I look at your beautiful faces, the words that come to mind are gentle, wise, kind, generous, sexy. But enough about me. Tonight we honor our wives, who let us out of the house wearing spandex when we are years past our prime, thereby bringing everlasting public shame and humiliation to them and to their families. But why they allow this is anyone's guess. But you were the ones, you, the wives, who let us bike with guys like Val Ludlow, who started out riding Lotager when it was strictly a Pony Express event, which would have been great except that he likes to tell dentist jokes during the ride. Here's a Val favorite. Did you hear the one about the Buddhist who refused Novocaine during a root canal? He wanted to transcend dental medication. There's just no excuse for that, Val. But the worst part is, he puts his fingers in your mouth as he's talking to you. What does he do? It's habit. It's habit. And you let us ride with guys like Kim Briggs, who only eats fava beans, organic spinach, and warm toothpaste, and likes to win converts to his pseudo diet with claims of moral superiority, all the way from Salt Lake to Dead Horse Point. Another 5 miles, and the guys in his car would have force-fed him a Twinkie.
That's weird all about it.
Not only that.
So sorry.
Not only that, but Kim is the self-appointed fashion czar for the group. He's always saying things like, red isn't really your color, and a powder blue ascot would provide just the right accent for that ensemble. And don't you just love chiffon in the evenings? Kim's definitely in touch with his feminine side. He let us ride with guys like Dave Moser, who is actually a professional rider, but trains with the A-team just for kicks. He's a guy who's 15 years younger than the rest of us, except for Corey. A guy who has a $32,000 bike that he built with custom parts from Lamborghini. A guy who gets blood transfusions before big races. Pops pills scored by a guy named Lance. And trains with Navy SEALs when he gets bored. Here's a guy who psychs himself up by constantly repeating the phrase, be the bike, while foaming at the mouth. So why does he occasionally ride with the B-teams? Just to mock the rest of us.
I want a copy of this.
Speaking of young guys, there's Corey Hawk, who I've only ridden with once, but once was enough. He's an animal! So you guessed it, he tells animal jokes. He told me this one. Did you hear about the three-legged dog who walks into a saloon in the Old West? He slides up to the bar and says, I'm looking for the man who shot my paw. But it goes beyond that. There are all kinds of animal references. All kinds of animal references. At the beginning of every ride, he says, fly like a hawk. It's like, okay, I get that. No, that makes sense. I can understand that. But then a few miles later, it's cruise like a gazelle. And so on, and so on. And the longer it goes, the weirder the animal references. After a while, he's saying things, attack like a wolverine, and sink your fangs into his neck, and watch the blood flow. I'm telling you, riding with Corey is to ride in the twilight zone. And there are guys like Brian Lloyd, a guy who sends birthday cards to his grad school teachers, helps young mothers with crying babies on airplanes, bakes cookies for his home teaching family, obeys all traffic laws, fixes the wings of wounded sparrows, and then when the healing is complete, sets them free to soar again. Brian is the guy who rides rapidly up steep roads without breathing hard. Then when you compliment him, he says, "Aw shucks, I was just lucky." Sure, this halo is a bit of a drag on downhill descents, but he never complains. Speaking of drag, well, let's just say Kareen has excellent taste. Even Kim approves. There's guys like Scott Laurie, who breaks every known bone in his body, plus 3 that are not known, then sneaks out of the emergency room just to avoid the copay. That's a true story. He's cheap and he's tough and he's had 1 too many concussions, if you know what I mean. When he's driving on the freeway, he tailgates other cars, but he calls it drafting. That's another true story. He's diminutive, but he's scary. Then there are guys like Craig Bruner, who drafts everyone else for 99 miles, then pulls ahead in the last mile, beats everybody, then has the audacity to don a Superman cape. Craig lacks subtlety, but he makes up for it in shamelessness. But wait, there's more. While the cape is a bit much, it's the superhero underoos that are the worst. How do we know about the underoos? Just don't ask. You let us ride with guys like Mike Glasser, who rides bow-legged and yells, "Yippee-I-O-K-A," and he sprints me on uphill, switch past me on uphill rides. If it makes him feel better, fine, because he still can't catch Mary. Mike also wears the ugliest jerseys this side of him. If Kim is Cindy Crawford tasteful, Mike is Dukes of Hazzard meets Laura with a touch of Honey Boo Boo. I'll reveal a secret here for the first time. It was because of his ugly jerseys, which made the rest of the team look bad, that we paid a young guy in a Mustang to shoot a dart into his roof. Sorry, Mike, it doesn't come out that. You let us ride with guys like Steve Hale, resident whiner, complainer, grumbler, bellyacre, moaner, and squawk. That's before the rights. He's the one who insists on leaving at 3:30 in the morning. The guy's an enigma, a cryptic mystery. He's the one who gets in front of the pack, then slows it down, yells at anyone who tries to pick up the pace. But then later on, he's also the guy who bursts out of the pack, creates an all-out sprint. At the end of the ride, after all the complaining, after all the moaning and groaning, he's the guy who wants to buy a chocolate milk, build a campfire, hold hands, and bond food. You can figure him out. Is he Jekyll or is he Hyde? Then there are guys like Scott Wood, who I'm sorry to say is just not a good influence. This is the kid my mother wouldn't let me play with. Part of his frontal lobe is missing. He yells at True story, he yells at golfers during their backswing. He was so infuriated they chase us with 9 irons with the intent to inflict bodily injury. He fakes distresses on the side of the road in order to flag down people in cars, then asks them to take a picture of them. Who else does that? Anyone. He has no conscience. He leads us on wild goose chases. He leads us in primal screams. And he signs his emails, Yippee Skippy. Who does that? He leads us on all these things, and sometimes we follow. What does that say about us? With all of that, you, our wives, still support our Viking habit, which in any enlightened society would be banned for the public good. Gentlemen, and I use the term loosely, stand and raise your glasses. On behalf of the men, I offer a toast to you who accept us with all our flaws, and there are many. You, the wonderful women of the Parley Canyon Riders. To the women! To the women!